Well, today we want to talk about a new product, not a new product, but in the chronological sense. It's a Coleman camp stove. These have been around for decades. I mean, I can remember them when I was a boy. Now, why would you, another gizmo? You know, here we are, we preach simple living, simplicity, living minimalism, and yet I'm introducing a new product into my life. And I live in a van, and even as small as this is, it takes up a lot of space I don't have to give. So why would this be worth it? Everything has to prove itself worthy before you can keep it. I want to be able to bake things. And it also solves another problem. I use my Coleman one-burner stove for heat. I've owned Mr. Buddy heaters. I've used them. I've owned Olympian catalytic heaters and used them and love them. But they're too much in a van. In the mild winter weather of southern Arizona, in the Quartzsite area and desert, Yuma, Lake Havasu, we don't get really cold. And so I use my camp stove for heat. Now, a lot of you are going to say, oh, that's so dangerous, you'll die. There's no chance you'll live through the winter if you use your camp stove for heat. Well, I've been doing it for 14 years. They do produce carbon monoxide. If they're not burning cleanly, you just watch them. If there's a blue flame, there's fine. There's no carbon monoxide. I've never had an issue. I have a carbon monoxide detector. You should have a carbon monoxide detector. This I use for heat. This solves two problems. That's how I can justify this much more space in my van. It solves my heat problem. Well, how does it solve my heat problem? I got an open flame in my van, and my van's tiny. So if anything falls on it, or if I actually put my hand on it, or I drop something on it, I got a fire. Well, that's a big problem. That's the biggest problem you can have in a van is a fire. And so this solves that problem by covering the flame. Another problem it solves is all the heat rises to the roof. The roof is 110, and your feet are cold, and your body's cold. Your hands are, your nose is cold. You say just get a big sleeping bag. Well, I have a big sleeping bag. I never run this overnight. I never run this if I'm not looking at it. And I'm going to demonstrate how this will work for that job. I also want the oven. I really like fish sticks. I know, childhood, what can I say? I grew up with fish sticks and macaroni and cheese. And so it's something I like. So I like making fish sticks, and that's the one is worth it. If you eat a lot of corn and if you eat a lot of rice and beans, which is super healthy for you, super cheap, cornbread is perfect, and it's delicious. And by itself, it's not so good. You put some cornbread in it, and boy, it just peps it right up. So I like cornbread. I like making some brownies when we have a gathering. I like to take it brownies, cookies, and there's a lot of other things that you can bake with this oven. It's a good-sized oven. So let me take a look at it. I just got this in. So you can see it's very flat and small. And that's one of the reasons I can justify keeping it is just because it's so small. If you have an RV, well then you have an oven, and if you have like a Class B, you're really tight on space. If you have a car or an SUV or a van, you're tight on space, and you have to justify even this much. And because this fulfills the two jobs, solves two problems, I'm glad to do it. So to open it up, it's not really all that complicated. So door latch and thermometer, you just pull it apart, and you'll see here, this is the bottom, and it hinges up. And then as you've got it up, I just want you to see that. Normally it just pops it down into place. On the bottom, there are, let me see if I can, little hooks here. Well, you want this piece to slide into those hooks. Once you've got them in, it has another latch here which seals and holds them on so they don't pop out. See that? This just opens and closes and seals it so they're held in tight. And this just comes up. And so I have all four of these hooks. See? The little tab. Just a little tab that connects to the one on top. A kind of a male-female type thing. And then once they're all together, that keeps it so that now it can't move apart and fall apart, and that makes it into one solid unit. And then you have the door And the reason it's important to get the tabs lined up is because this little bump goes in holes. This is where those little bumps go. So these little tabs are going to stick out of here, and these tabs aren't big enough. That's the bottom line here. I personally, I've played with it, and this doesn't seem like this is going to be very secure. And one thing I don't want is to have my cornbread in here, these tabs just to come loose with a shake, and everything to fall down and make a huge mess. Don't like that idea at all. I will get some clothes hangers, some metal wire clothes hangers, and run them through, and then just set this on top of the coat hangers. And I think I'm going to trust that a lot more. One coat hanger, just run it through the holes on the side. I'll just run it through the holes on the sides, bend down the end, bend down the other end, and then I'll trust that a lot more than I will trust this. So there you have it, the Coleman oven. Very simple, very basic, not much to it. They've been around for literally decades. I don't know when they first started making them, but I remember them as a boy. My dad had one. I think they've been making them since at least the 50s, and it's a simple design that works really well. They actually work, they get hot. Because it'll solve the two problems for me. It allows me to bake food, and it allows me to run my stove safely inside my van for comfort heating. Solves those two problems. That's why it's worth even this much space and weight. Okay, so next we'll go and we will look at, I'll actually start using it. I'm going to bake something today. That's why I'm showing this to you. So let's go take a look at that. Okay, so welcome to this portion of this video. We're looking at I'm using the Coleman oven to make Gorton fish fillets. I've got a fridge. I don't have a freezer. I buy them, I let them thaw. I've been doing this for 14 years and it's never been an issue. Let them thaw. When it comes time to cook them, I cook them. So I can only do 6 at a time. I have quite a bit of bakeware and better bakeware, but it goes to my solar oven. And my solar oven is so big that I don't carry it in the van. It's just too big to fit in the van. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to get this, because of how nicely and compactly it folds down. So I had to borrow this pan. There they are. You can see they're pale. They're not cooked. They're raw. It took exactly 15 minutes for it to reach 380. And 380 is going to be plenty good enough. The package calls for 425. I'm going to put it in. It should keep climbing. It is climbing. I can actually see it kind of slowly going up, but I can actually see the needle moving. And eventually, I've got it up fairly high, and then I'll turn it down. Turns out this is not a good stove for it. Let me give you that warning right now. It just barely sits on top of it. It's pretty fragile the way it sits on top of it. It looks like it's designed for the 2 burners with the stringers that go all the way across. It'll work perfectly on those, so I'm not sure. This may be a failed experiment for my use, because I want to use it for heat, and I don't have room in here for a 2 burner with that kind. I'm going to either have to find some way to make this work with this stove, or I may have to just get rid of the thing. I don't know. So let me throw these in, and then we'll have dinner for a little while. So it just opens. Everything's hot. You can see it rocked a bit there. It's barely sitting on this stove. This is not the stove for this product. So this may or may not work for me. So we'll just keep our eye on it and see how long it takes. Hi folks. Well, it's been in the oven for half an hour. The oven stayed at about 380 the whole time. I'm going to call the oven itself a success. It works really well as an oven. I think I can always cook anything I want on it. However, I'm going to call this experiment of using it inside the van and as my heating device a total failure. It's too unstable, it's too hot. This thing is incredibly hot. If I touch it in any way, and it's such a small area that I have in here, I'm going to touch it. I'll get burned. It's too unstable, it can fall off. I might try and grab it by accident, you know, just automatically. I'll never do this again using this inside. I think I'm very glad I've got the oven. I can easily, I'll just pick this up and take it outside and cook outside. And I'm going to have to work out something with the stabilization, but I believe I can do that no problem. So let's take it out and see what it looks like. So if you remember, they started out real pale. They're just sizzling away. I didn't turn them. It does recommend turning them. What does the other side look like? The other side is pretty crisp and brown. I maybe should have turned them. I don't think I can even eat that. It's too hot. Oh fuck. The thing fell. Like I said, the grate may fall. The grate has fallen. Now it's just sitting right down on the bottom, which is not a good thing. It's directly over the flame, which is a bad thing because that means it's too hot, and that's why this has gotten so brown on the bottom. See, it's really brown on the bottom and light on the top. But it's delicious. I won't have any problem eating that at all. What I may do is turn them over. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it in there for another couple of minutes, get that side a little brown. So, what do I think? I think it dropped to 280. Dropped about 100 degrees by having the door open that long. You know, I'm going to have to fix the thing with the grate because the metal grate fell, and now right now the pan is sitting directly on the stove, on the heat. Well, it's not directly on the heat, it's about 2 or 3 inches above it, but that's not enough. It needs to be further away from it than that. And that's a minor problem to fix. Like I said, coat hangers, just put them through, it'll never fall again. This problem with this particular stove, it doesn't work. It needs a 2-burner stove with the grates that go all the way across to support the whole bottom evenly. There are only 4 corners. See, on this stove, there are just the 4 corners. And it's sitting on those 4 corners. And if it's not sitting on those 4 corners, it falls and pushes up the bottom. The bottom never attaches hard, it just pushes it up. That probably doesn't make sense, but it's true. And so that's just too unstable. Those 4 little contact points just aren't enough. And it's too close to me where I'm sitting in this design. For me, this is a failure as to use it for heat. I can't use it for heat. But it's a really good oven, and I knew it would be, and I think you're going to be really pleased with it as an oven if you do pick one up. You just have to use it outside or someplace where it can't be this unstable. So this is the first batch. I turned it over. You can see that just turning it over, that last little bit really browned it on both sides. Look really good, don't they? Let me take a bite. That's really good. So I'm calling it 100% a success as an oven. But for my purpose inside the van, no. It can be used outside on a table, which I do, no problem. So I'm going to keep it. I'm glad I've got it, and I recommend it. But using it inside is not a good idea. Unless you have the situation where you have enough room and maneuverability, you got an RV, you probably already have an oven. If you don't, then if you have an RV and not an oven, this is really, really a good idea. Okay, well, thanks much, and we'll talk to you on our next video.